3. James 3. We'll finish up James 3 and 60% done with what my big brother taught me. All right, let's be reminded of our the audience and what else. You do have the first two. I'll give you that. The author, always important. The audience, always important. What's left? Another A. I have an A word, but is that all that matters? As long as you know the author and the audience, you know everything. All right. So Rex, when you guys first started dating and you wrote a letter, now compared to a text that you would send her this afternoon, is there any difference between those two things? Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope one's a little more romantic than the other. All right. The atmosphere or the situation or sort of what's going on. All right. So always compare it to, if someone is writing a letter, in the middle of a war, this guy is writing a letter to his sweetheart back home, as opposed to, making out a laundry list of to-do list or whatever. Those are very different things. And so we need to know the atmosphere. So we know James, the brother of Jesus, little brother of Jesus, all right? And who is the audience? Let's be reminded. The 12 tribes in the dispersion, okay? So 12 tribes. Why is that sort of an odd concept written in 60-ish AD? 10 of them we haven't seen since 722 BC. All right, so we're 750 years since those 10 northern tribes have been gone. All right, the two remaining tribes are which two? Can you tell me? Judah and Benjamin. Judah and Benjamin, the southern tribes. All right, so the rest of them have been scattered all over the known world. They don't know who they are. We don't know who they are. No one knows who they are to this day. We have no idea, just because they were so completely scattered, which is what the Assyrians would do to conquered peoples. They would divide them up so they could not gel together and rebel, okay? So they would spread them out. This is why a lot of us believe that the Samaritans, not only would they take people out of those northern Israel and put them in Persia or in India or in Syria, all these northern areas, all right? But they would also take people from Persia and all these other areas that are conquered and say, here, we'll put you here. So it creates all of this sort of half-blood kind of people that never trust each other, never come together. And that was sort of their way of making sure people stayed conquered. And had the Assyrians lasted a whole lot longer, it would have been a very effective tool. But not 100 years, and they were out. The Babylonians came in and destroyed them. All right? So when we say the 12 tribes in the dispersion, it's very much a euphemism for Jewish people. All right? Not so much the southern tribe Jewish people, just all the Jewish people. Okay? Hold on, somebody. Okay. Anyway, Ashley's trying to call me, I think. No, that was a while back. All right, good. All right, in the dispersion, that gives us our sort of our atmosphere or our moment in time. So what would he be referring to them about? What would they be missing if they were in the dispersion? The dispersion is the diaspora, the spreading out, the throwing out seed all over the place. So the opposite of dispersion would be what? Gathering, all right? So if all the 12 tribes were gathered, they would have what at their disposal at that place of gathering? They would have the temple. They would have the rituals. They would have all the Jewish trappings readily available to them. But because they're not here, they're there. So he's going to have to communicate all of these things and talk to them almost like you're calling somebody who's been away from you for some time, all right, and away from home, okay? Which y'all are all familiar with, right? Pretty much, yeah, all of y'all are familiar with kids being way away. I have an inkling of it. I have a little bit of it. So looking forward to this time next year. Empty nester. Looking forward to that. That's going to be good times. All right. So let's go. What's that? I know. I'm so excited. It's just going to be fun. So, unless Holland comes back home, which is a possibility, because anyway. 3:13. He asks the question, who is wise and has understanding among you? Describe this question. So James is writing, and he's writing to these 12 tribes in the dispersion. He throws out this question, who is wise and has understanding among you? What's James doing? He's just gone through a whole thing, and you can look at 3:1. It says, not many of you should become teachers. Why does he have to say that? Why do you tell your audience, not many of you should do this? Because they want to do this. They see some lure in this. I want to do that. I want to do that. And he goes, no, I don't think that's a good idea. So it has this feel to it, sort of sarcastic, almost daring. So you want to be a teacher, huh? Yeah, because you see that guy that wants to be the teacher, and you're like, no. So he asks this question, who is wise and has understanding among you? Who raises their hand at this point? Who goes, oh, that's totally me. That is so me. I mean, it's like right there. They should just have my name right there, all right? For the Jewish person, would they pride themselves in being wise and understanding? What would be the source of that? Is that just because they're so brilliant? Because Jewish people are so brilliant? No, they're much more spiritual than that, right? They're much more humble than that. They would say, yes, we are a wise people. Yes, we are a people of understanding. Why? What's the beginning of wisdom? Proverbs 1:7. What's the beginning of wisdom? The fear of the Lord. We know him, you don't. So therefore, we must be wiser than everybody else because we know Yahweh, the God of the universe, all right? So if we know him, then we are wise and we are understanding, all right? Now, is that a blanket statement of Jewish people that they are wise and understanding? Because they know God, they know Yahweh, all right? Do all Jewish people fit into that category? No. Do any people fall into that category? No. I don't care how smart your nation is and how smart your tribe is. There's one idiot in the group always, right? And there's probably a whole lot more than that just haven't raised their hand or revealed that nature, all right? So he's kind of baiting them. He's baiting them with this question. Who is wise and has understanding among you? The word wise there is Sophia, all right? Sophos, all right? We get our word philosophy, all right? The love, philosophy, the love of wisdom is the pursuit of that. If someone is sophisticated, all right? Anytime you see this word, sophomore, you know what a sophomore is? It comes from Sophia and Moros, so is a wise old fool, all right? Because we were all sophomores at one point, and we thought we knew what? Everything. But really, you're a moron, okay? So that's where that word comes from, which is just always funny when somebody brags about, yeah, I'm a sophomore. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So who is wise? So a Sophia, and has understanding. This is the word epihistemi, which comes from word epigenosko. Gnosko is to know something. Epi intensifies this word, all right? It means you really know somebody, okay? When I was in college, I worked with the Florida State football team, and so we had a player on our football team named Deion Sanders. You have heard the name before. I lived with him for 2 years, okay? So Gnosko, you know the name Deion Sanders. Epigenosko, I know what he laughs at. I know what jokes he tells. I know what he likes to eat. I remember all sorts of stuff about it. So there's a difference. So he's saying, not only are you wise, Sophia, but you also have this knowledge, this standing, all right? We had a word understand, all right? Because you're standing, there's something under that on which you're standing. Okay, everybody blow your mind right there? Okay, so to understand means I have some knowledge that I can trust, that I can rely on. Have any of y'all watched the Barrett nomination confirmation process? The judge who's going through this. None of you saw any of this? Okay, so she's there and she's answering all these questions. I mean, these senators are just peppering her with, well, what about in this case you said this, and what about this case you said? I mean, she's like 500 cases she's written opinions on. So they're just going, what about this? And she's like quoting the case, and she's telling them what the case is, and she says, I think I said this, and they said, no, you said this and this. Well, actually, what I said was this, and this. And at some point in the thing, she had this piece of paper just on the desk, and Senator Cornyn says, can I ask you, what's on that piece of paper? And she holds it up and like, nothing. She's like, wait a second. We've all been pulling from all of our books of case law and all this stuff, and you don't have anything in front of you, and you've been, because she had what? She had something that she was standing on, so she had understanding, okay? So it's a high bar. So if we're saying someone who is wise and someone who has understanding, okay? Now, do you know who that person is? If you're reading this as a group, this letter arrives, you go to your little synagogue, wherever you are in the dispersion, and you come together, and the question is asked, who is wise and understanding among you in your little synagogue, in your tribe? Does everybody know who is and who isn't? Is this something that's pretty easily identifiable? Or are you going, I'm not sure? And it may be I'm not sure, I don't think anybody is. But that person who generally has that stands out from the crowd, don't they? You kind of go, yeah, that's good. Like Barrett, like Judge Barrett. I'm just sitting there going, that lady's scary smart. I wouldn't mess with her for anything, all right? She knows everything, all right? Who is wise and understanding among you? Again, a rhetorical question, all right? And so they're going to kind of throw this out there, and then he's going to go, if this is you, then this should apply to who you are. Because if you're so wise, because you have this fear of God, fear of the knowledge of the Lord, and if you're standing on some principles that are long handed down from Moses, from all the writers, from all the histories, then this, he should, you might even want to put will, show his works by or defined by good conduct with wisdom's gentleness. All right? So if that were a test, how would you score? Everybody doing well on that one? Let me read again. He should show his works, ergon, the things you do in life, all right? What you do, when you get up, what you do, what you say, what you do with your hands, what you do with your feet. I always love it. They talk about your big thumb, your big toe, and your earlobe, all right? So the things you hear, the things you do, and the places you go, all right? These are kind of this little symbolism that comes along with it, all right? So he should show his works by or defined by good, kalos. Everybody love our word kalos? There's agathos, which is good enough, and there's kalos, which is over the top. Oh man, that was the coolest thing anybody's ever done for me. All right? This is kalos. He should show the wise and the understanding. This is you, you should show your works by over the top. That was the awesomest thing anyone's ever done conduct. All right? And this conduct is anastrepho, which means your turnings. In the midst of your turnings, in the midst of, I made this turn, and I made this turn, and I made this turn, I made this turn, and we do this every day, right? We make turns all day long. We make decisions. We have different conversations here, then we turn here, and then we turn over to this, then we drive in traffic, and we turn here. So it's this idea of this turning of your whole day. So your work should be shown with these over-the-top, excellent turnings all day long with wisdom's gentleness. Or you may have the meekness of wisdom. Do y'all have that? Okay. Meek. Define meek for me. What does it mean to be meek? Okay, good. Power under control. It was used in first century for circus animals. all right? And we use that word circuses in the sense of Roman circus, all right? So these circus animals, they could eat you anytime they want, but they don't, okay? A horse, all right? A stallion could do what? Anytime it wants to. Just run away, buck you off, and just trample on you, and you're dead, okay? But they don't because they have brought their power under control, okay? If we have a wild Mustang, is that power under control? No, that's just power, all right? How effective is power not under control? So if I have a broken horse and a wild Mustang, who's more powerful? They both have equal amounts of power. One just is able to control it. This is meekness, okay? So far too many people have this idea that meekness simply sort of is weak and sort of the milquetoast. That's not it at all. It's someone who could just destroy you anytime they want to, but they're nice enough and they don't. Moses was described in Numbers 12:3 as he was the meekest man who ever lived. This was right after the incident where Miriam and Aaron kind of got on him about his wife and all this stuff, all right, that they didn't approve of. And it says in there that he was the meekest man who ever lived, which is ironic. Why? Because it was in Numbers 12:3. And who wrote Numbers 12:3? Moses. So Moses wrote of himself that he was the meekest man who ever lived. All right, so just a little irony there for you. But is it wise to keep your power under control? You see how this works? The wisdom of keeping your power under control. So if you're wise and understanding, let's put all this together, this first phrase. The one who is wise and understanding among you, all right, he will show his works, all right, by beautiful, over-the-top, all day long, this decision, then I made this decision, and it's like, man, he's just nailing it every single conversation the guy has all day long with the wisdom to keep your power under control. Never loses his temper, never says the wrong thing, never posts the wrong thing on Facebook. His social media is just perfect, all right? The one who is wise and understanding, the one who fears the Lord and stands on the principles of God, which is what all you Jews claim to be, this is what you will do. So what's James doing? He's asking a very high question, right? How many of you are wise and understanding? To which they go, I want to say I am. He goes, well, this is what it'll look like. You should show your works by kalos anastrepho, good, over-the-top good, excellent conduct, excellent turnings all day long. And your wisdom will keep your power under control so that you make the perfect decision every single time. Now, let me ask again, how many of you are wise and understanding? You see what James is doing here? He's putting this unapproachable bar so that the people initially want to say what? I'm doing okay. Here's what it looks like. Okay, yeah, not me. Not me at all. So what it does, it creates the humility, but at the same time, it creates this. This is what will happen when God starts to take over massive portions of your life. That this beautiful conduct, this kalos anastrepho, will come along, and this Sophia prautes, this wisdom's meekness, this humble, this power under control, that's what you're going to start to see when you do become wiser and gain more understanding. All right? So he kind of sets that bar and he kind of knocks it out, but he goes, but you can do this. He's a great teacher in this way, all right? Which is why he kind of resembles another great teacher, like who? His brother, Jesus, all right? You see that? Again, the Sermon on the Mount plays into this thing the whole way, all right? 14. But, so wise and understanding, anyone? No one, all right? But if you have bitter envy and selfish ambition in your heart, oh, that's me. That's me. So initially you want to be able to say this, but you look in the mirror and you go, yeah, I got the bitter envy thing, the selfish ambition thing. That's all over my heart, all right? And he says to you guys, don't brag and deny the truth. Literally to speak lies against that which is a true statement. okay? So if you have bitter envy, pikariano, all right? Pikariano, zelos. I always think of it pickle, all right? Pikariano, that's how I remembered vocabulary words back in the day, all right? So this bitterness, all right? Think about biting into a nice dill pickle, all right? Think about that kind of conversation with someone. Think about that kind of interaction with someone that tastes like a dill pickle, all right? This is what it's saying. This bitter envy, zelos, all right? Zealous, all right? So someone that it's just antagonizing. If you have bitter envy and selfish ambition, this is a word that's often translated as a mercenary, okay? Now, what does a mercenary do? They fight for money, okay? And that's their sole ambition, okay? And this is important because if that's your sole ambition, what happens when someone that normally you would be friends with kind of comes against you or becomes your enemy based on this mercenary status? If that's your ambition to get paid to do a job, if someone comes against you that you would not normally fight with, what will you do? You're going to fight. All right, this is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. All right, if you've seen the Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, all right, they get the contract against each other, and what do? They shoot up their house and blow up their house, all this stuff. All right, why? Because what do they do for a living? They're mercenaries. All right, so this word is often translated as one who disputes, one who fights, one who antagonizes one another. All right, it's utterly self-seeking. So if this is who you are, and I think this is where he's kind of hiding, don't brag. Well, who's out there bragging going, you know what, I am the most bitterly envious person on the planet. No one is more bitter in their envy than I am. No one loves money more than people than I do. Is anyone doing that? So don't brag about this. Don't brag. I think what he's saying is, if you don't recognize that this is in your heart, don't go around bragging about how wise and understanding you are. Because everybody else in the room is going, I don't think there was a whole lot of callous and estrepho going on there. And I know there wasn't any meekness of humility going on there, all right? I know that's not going on. So if you have this stuff in your heart, be very careful about how you portray yourself. And don't speak lies against the truth. Don't go around saying you're these things, all right? So what does that mean? How should we be? If who is wise and understanding, and don't brag because there's probably bitter envy and selfish ambition in your heart. What's James saying we should be? Honest, good. Who would brag thinking they weren't bitterly envious and selfishly ambitious? Who would brag and say, look how wise and understanding I am? Someone who is utterly self-deceived. All right? And we see people like this, and we hear them, and we go, do they not know? Should I? Have you ever felt, should I say something to them? All right? I mean, we see this on Facebook. You know, you see it's some teenage kid's birthday, and it's like, oh, to the greatest kid who's ever lived, they're so wise and compassionate and caring, and you're going, that woman's never been to camp with her child. I don't know about that, all right? Being self-aware, I think that's what his point is. Understand your level of wisdom. And I think he's really just holding up a big mirror in front of his audience, isn't he? How is this looking for you? How is this working out for you? Because he says this. 15, such wisdom does not come from above. Now, when he uses the word wisdom there, or this such wisdom, he's literally referring back to verse 14. This wisdom, is that really wisdom? The bitter envy and selfish ambition? That's not. He's like, this wisdom that you're talking about here does not come, and literally the word is kata erkomai, come down. all right? It doesn't come down from above, okay? Now, this is the same phrase that's used in John 3 when Jesus says, you must be born again, anothen, right? It's the same word. So when he says you must be born again, it means you must be born from above, all right? Very, very easily, we could have translated that same way, okay? From born from above, born again, same idea, all right? So such wisdom, sarcastically speaking, does not come down from above. Bitterness, bitter envy, and selfish ambition does not come down from above, all right? But, on the contrary, big but, this is the big but word, Allah, A-L-L-A, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. Now, which of those are good? None of them, right? All right. So this wisdom, bitterness and envy and selfish ambition, don't brag about that. It's earthly, okay? Paul talks about our earthly tent, that we live in this earthly tent, okay? And someday we will leave this earthly tent and we will go to be in heaven forever and ever and ever, all right? Paul says, don't set your mind on the things of this earth, okay? So is earth bad? People are bad, and where do people live? On the earth, okay? So it's this idea where the people are. So the whole of the people, that's the way, common sense. Should Christians have common sense? No. Because common sense would imply what? What everybody on the earth knows to be sensible. All right? So common sense would be the world says what? What's the world standard? If you average out the world and their views of this, what would it be? Should we think like that? No, we should be separate. All right, everybody with me? Okay, I just want to clear that up because y'all all jumped on the, yes, we should have common sense. I'm like, no, we shouldn't. All right? No, because we don't want to think like the world. I mean, we're told not to. Don't renew your mind. Renew your mind. Do not be conformed to this world, all right? It means don't go stand in line with everybody else thinking the same thing. Jesus does what? Everybody's in what line? The wide gate, all right? The wide path. And where are we supposed to go? The narrow. You see where, so this is the earthly. And we go, wait a second, we need to be over here because all the earth is saying these things, all right? And you got to love the hymn. And the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. Unspiritual, this is really sort of an interesting word. It means natural, all right? It stands in contrast of the word pneumatikos. Pneumatikos would be spiritual. This is unspiritual, okay? So the things of the Spirit are telling you, these are the things you want to line up with what the Spirit is telling you, which is not going to be what the carnal flesh says, right? So this is sort of the idea. One of this is the common mentality of the world, which stands in opposition to God. This is within you, all right? It's unspiritual. It comes from your flesh, your fleshly nature. And it's also demonic, okay? Now, how do you distinguish? And R.C. Sproul picks up on this, that he has 3 categories of sin. One is demonic, one is worldly, and one is fleshly. So earthly, fleshly, and demonic. This is his 3 categories of sin, okay? For it to be demonic, it's different than just self-centered, okay? The world tells me I should do this. My flesh tells me I want this. Satan tells me I want something distinct. Satan doesn't care if I sin. Let's be real clear on this. Satan does not care if I sin, all right? Because he knows Christ died for my sins. It's a wash. He wants me to doubt, question, destroy my faith. So if I go out and I eat a whole thing of Oreos, my flesh told me to do that, right? The world didn't tell me to do that. My flesh told me to do that. If I go out there and buy a brand new car that I have no business affording, the world told me to do that, and my flesh told me to do that, all right? Now, how will Satan use that later on, all right? This is where you get sort of this triumvirate coming at you. And so James is just saying this. You need to recognize that this wisdom that results in bitter envy, all right, which is just hatred. It's just hatred, right? I mean, it's hatred of other people, and then selfish ambition is what? Love of who? Me. So I hate you, and I love me, and so it's just utterly selfish. This is earthly, it's fleshly, and it's demonic in its source. Can't be more than that, all right? 16. 4. For where envy and selfish ambition exist. If you want to, you can cross the word exist out in your Bible, all right? Or on your sheet of paper and later on in your Bible, okay? That word is not there, nor when it says there is disorder of every kind. That word's not in there either. Think of it this way. I've told you many times that the Greek is very spatially centered. It's very geographically centered. It tells you where things are and where they're not, okay? It has good prepositions that help you see the picture much clearer than our English does, okay? So it simply says, for where envy and selfish ambition. Where? That's a key word. Where? Where is that? It's in this high school. It's in this locker room. It's at this party. It's at this office. It's in this relationship. These things. So it's telling that where, right there. It's in there. It's there. It's there. Okay? For where there is envy and selfish ambition, same idea, same exact words. There, where those things are, there is disorder and every kind of evil. Okay? Disorder is the word katahistemi. All right? A means not, kata means settle down, histemi means set in place. So if something is not set in place, okay, think about, what was I watching the other day? Oh, U-571. You ever seen this movie? The submarine movie with Matthew McConaughey? They're sitting at the table in like the captain's galley, whatever, and they're all sitting there eating dinner, eating soup on a boat in rough seas. I'm thinking, whose idea was that? All right, give that man a hot dog. Come on. All right, so they've got their cups, which are all glass, with their glass bowls, with their plates and oranges, all right? Because when you're in rough seas and you put your orange down on your table, what happens to it? So the whole table, and there's one guy that's not like a sailor guy at all, and he's just going, I can't handle this. I can't. And the others are just like chasing their soup down over here and grabbing the orange as it falls off the table. And it was driving me crazy just watching this. But this is the idea, katahistemi, not set down in place, okay? And he says, when you have, or where you have, I should say it better, where you have envy and selfish ambition, nothing's going to be set in place. And when things are not set in place, what do you have? Chaos, right? Because you can't count on anything. Because it's not here and it's not there. The standards, the morals, their situational ethics all over the place. Well, if it feels good, do it. If that's the end justifies the means, all this stuff. And so where you have bitter envy and selfish ambition, there's going to be chaos. We talked about this when we did the 10 Commandments, right? If you don't follow these simple 10 rules, you're going to have chaos in your life. If you will follow them, you will not have chaos. And that's the message here. You will have chaos and every punta, all kinds, all practices of evil. All right? Y'all have every kind of evil? Anybody have anything different? Vile practice. Okay, it's the word praso or pragma, which we get our word practice. So it's not just sort of you'll have things will be evil. No, there will be things that are done that are evil. Okay? Now, trace this real quick. So if I have bitter envy and selfish ambition in my heart, what effect is that going to have on my life? Chaos. My worldview will be chaotic. So if I have this in my heart, my worldview becomes chaotic. So what happens to my turnings, my decisions as I go through my day? What happens to my practices? They're evil. This is the Greek word phallos, right? P-H-A-U-L-O-S. When we talk about something, oh, that's just a foul noise, or that's a foul smell, or that's a foul ball in baseball, okay? This is where this word comes from. So it's not so much that it's evil, paneros, demonic evil. It's just, that's horrible. That's disgusting, all right? If we say that's a foul smell coming from there, what are we saying? That's... Now, put that in a community where bitter envy and selfish ambition are, chaotic, and it's foul. Who wants to be around that? Anybody ever seen a church like this? Bitter envy. Go to a business meeting. All right? That's why we don't have any business meetings anymore. Have y'all noticed that? No one has. No one has said a word to me in 2 years. We haven't had business meetings almost 2 years. All right? So, because I'm not gonna build a garden and, hey, come dump your crap in here so we can really start to hate each other. It's real easy to do away with that. We don't have this foul contention, all right? Because we cut off the bitter envy. We avoided the chaos. Now we don't have all these foul-smelling stuff coming out, all right? So now we can be beautiful out there in the world, all right? So who's wise and understanding? They're going to do awesome stuff. But if you got this in your heart, which you just realized you did because you don't do this all day long, all right? Don't brag. Recognize that the effect of these things, all right? And recognize that there's disorder of every kind and every practice, all right? 17. But the wisdom from above, what has he already said? This wisdom, not from above. It's earthly, it's carnal, it's demonic. This wisdom, the wisdom that's from above, or the born-again idea that comes down from above, all right, is first, this is an interesting phrase here, because generally they just say, this wisdom is boom, 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 right? But what does he do? Look at the construct of this. The wisdom from above is first pure. It's a word protos. It's actually protos main, which literally means first indeed. First, no question about it. It's not just a list of things. If it's not this first, it's not this at all. All right? So it's a very emphatic construction here. All right? So, but the wisdom from above is first pure. All right? It's the Greek word hagnos. All right? We get our word hagios from this, which means holy. We translate it generally as holy or pure. I would describe it as uniquely divine in nature and expression. So not only is it divine in its nature of itself, but also in the manner in which it expresses itself, in the way it's carried out. It's pure. It will never be defiled. It will never have a taint of evil to it at all. It's always going to be pure. So you can double back and say, so if you're wise and understanding, and your works are demonstrated by good conduct, this kalos turning, all right, with wisdom, gentleness, you can understand and you can see how this is first pure. That there will never be anything mixed in with this. There will never be anything sully about it. It will be something that is absolutely pure, untouchable as far as the law is concerned, okay? I had a guy I worked with one week at an FCA camp a long time ago. I'll never forget this. He would always go around, and anything that happened that was really just a cool God moment at camp, whatever, just a really cool moment, he would just go, dude, that was kingdom. That was his adjective for anything that was godly, that was pure, that was all this. That was kingdom. And what he was saying, which is really a cool saying, I kind of picked up on it for a while, is that's what it's going to be like when we get in the kingdom. And it was cool the way he would distinguish between this is the age, this is the current age, that's the age to come. That's what it's going to be like in the kingdom. And I want more moments like that. So he always said that. I just always remember that. So when it says first pure, first it's kingdom. This is what's going to happen in the kingdom. It will be divine in nature and in expression. This is the way it'll play out. So those who are wise and understanding, they're going to be kingdom. They're going to make kingdom decisions every day, all day long. Then, or next, all right, some of your translations say peace-loving. What else? Peaceable, all right? You ever use the word peaceable in your conversations? I haven't either. I thought that this week. I was like, I don't think I've ever said that. That was peaceable, all right? It's not peace-loving. Peace-loving is not good. Anybody know anyone named Irene? Are we that young? Yes. So Irene is a word for peace. All right, Eirene is Irene or Irene. All right, which is a word for peace. It's a Greek word for peace. So if you know anyone named Irene, their name means peace. If you know anyone named Agatha, their name means good. If you know someone named Kayla, that means beautiful, excellent. So Aletheia, any search thing for that. Charis means grace. Aletheia means truth. So a lot of really cool names that you wouldn't know of come from all these Greek terms. But he says, first it's pure, divine in nature and expression, and then it's peace-loving or defined by peace, right? And I love the way he sort of sections this off. First is this, next is this, and then you get blah, 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 right? First of all, it's going to look like God, and second of all, it's going to create peace among men. It's going to be peace attracting. It's going to be peace causing. It's going to be those two things for sure, right? Which to me is what? What's the greatest command? Love the Lord your God, and then what? Love others as yourself. Peace. Peace with God, look like God. And so that's where I think he kind of picks up on this just a little bit, because he makes sure those two things are emphatic. First, it's pure, it's like God, it's hagios, it's holy, and then it causes peace, or it creates a defined arena of peace. Next, he says it's gentle. You may have a different word there. I think everybody pretty much has gentle. All right. It's a different word. It's usually not the word that's used for gentle. It means to live under the spirit of the law, not necessarily the letter of the law. So the one who is wise and understanding, their life will be not about you were 2 minutes late. It's, hey, I'm glad you're here. Come on in. All right? Does it break the rules? Not necessarily. It just says, hey, we have a rule that's trying to accomplish this. Let's make sure we accomplish this. All right? This is the way the wise and understanding person is going to be. They never have the harshness of the law, all right? But they never dismiss the necessity of the order created by that, all right? But there's a gentleness to the way in which they do it. So it's an interesting construct of this word. What I write? The law is good, therefore application of good law should be gentle, not harsh. If the law is good, then the application of it should always be good. It should never be harsh, which we're so good at in church, right? Our law is good. The grace of God is good. The law given is good. And we apply that and we encourage people with it in this beautifully kalos way, right? 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 This is I'm channeling James here. Who is wise and understanding? They always take the law of God and apply it in this beautiful, gentle way. All right. All right. Compliant. What do y'all have? Open to reason. It's an interesting phrase. It's the word good, you, and peitho, which means persuaded. So it's a person well persuaded, somebody who knows what they know and they know why they know it, and they're all in. And if you ever go to them and you ask them something, you know exactly what you're going to get. They're not somebody who's going to be wishy-washy, all right? They know what they know. They're all in, all right? And so there's a consistency to this thing. They are a reliable person, all right? Which is always interesting when they say open to reason, to be good, persuaded. I don't know how that translates well, but anyway. Next, full of mercy and good fruits. Full, mestos, all right? So what happens when you squeeze a full tube of toothpaste? What comes out? If it's full, what's it full of? You ever tried to fill a tube of toothpaste with something else? No? Neither have I. I was just curious if anybody had. I thought that'd be an interesting thing. No, but if the tube of toothpaste is full, what's in it? Toothpaste. And when you squeeze it, what comes out? What if you have a person who is full of mercy? When you squeeze them, what comes out? Mercy. And what is mercy? Elios. We're going to talk about this a little bit more on Sunday. What is mercy? Define mercy. Someone is full of mercy. They are full of what? Okay, it's a different word. It's a different word. All right? Mercy. We do translate it that way as well. So, did you say? Forgiveness. Okay, forgiveness can be mercy. All right? Because mercy is to do what? To give somebody something that they do not deserve. Okay? Or rather, to not give the person that which they deserve. Okay? Grace and mercy, a lot of times we kind of flip those around. Grace is the idea of giving somebody something they don't deserve. Mercy is to say, I'm not going to give you that which you deserve. Okay, so Christ gave us grace in forgiving us, or gave us mercy by forgiving us, and gave us grace by giving us salvation. Okay? So to be full of this idea that you deserve this, but I'm not giving it to you. I'm not going to inflict that upon you. I'm going to forgive you, all right? I'm going to be compassionate, all right? Jesus would say that I have compassion on these people. My favorite Greek word, because he had splagnizomai on them, all right? We get our word spleen from this. Your spleen is there, your bowels. My bowels ached for that person, all right? That's what he's saying when he said I had splagnizomai on them, all right? Because when you do that, when you have such emotion for them, this beautiful feeling, I'm not going to inflict the pain on them that I know is right there. I know they deserve it, but I'm going to take it away from them if I have that choice and I have that capacity and if that is the loving thing to do, all right? That's a huge balancing act. But the wisdom that is from above is full of mercy, all right? So if you're not a very merciful person, James has already alluded to this, that mercy is a high virtue in the Christian's life. Why? Because what did he see in his big brother? He saw how merciful he was, all right? So be full of mercy and good fruits. Good fruits. Fruit tells you what about a tree? Is what? What kind it is? But what if there is no fruit on that tree? A, you don't know what kind it is, but you do know what about it? It's dead, right? So if you don't have fruit, if you're not full of fruit, right, then that tree is dead. It has no life to it. It's not producing anything of any value. Jesus walks up to the fig tree and saw no figs on it. What does he say? Curse you, all right? And this is such a metaphor. So he's walking toward Jerusalem, and he sees the fig tree with no fruit on it, and he says, you're cursed. Everybody see that? See the comparison there? He walks by, he sees the fig tree with no fruit on it on his way into Jerusalem, where he's going to see what? Beautiful tree with no fruit on it. Okay, see that? How he walks into town on that one. All right, so full of mercy and good fruits, full of life-giving things, and without favoritism and hypocrisy. It's almost saying, don't get caught up in that trivial stuff. Don't get caught up in being judgmental or being doubtful or being, showing favoritism. He's already discussed that a lot. And this hypocrisy, which is just what defined the Pharisees, right? And then he finishes up with this line, 18. And we're going to kind of twist this around a little bit and see if we can get a better construct. It says, and the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who cultivate peace. All right, now that's a very confusing sentence there. I don't know why they translated this badly, all right, because it's a very weird construct. The last phrase there, those who cultivate peace, is the word from the Beatitudes when Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers. Okay? So the peacemakers are the actors in this. Okay? And what is a peacemaker? I mean, it's kind of an obvious one who makes peace. What does that look like, though? Who's someone in your life, or some example in your life that someone has walked into a room, a situation where there was no peace and they made peace? Have you seen that? Okay. I like to describe it, and I know Mason and I had a conversation before he preached, and so we kind of collaborated on this. And Cody Howard and I had talked about this because he deals with so much conflict there at Church on the Bridge and Mission Texarkana and all that stuff. And I kind of gleaned from his conversation, the peacemaker is the one who sees themselves as the beginning of a circle. Now, you've been to a wedding before, and they go, oh, it's a circle, it's a never-ending, and it never ends, and it all just, well, what if you saw yourself as the beginning of the circle? What acts upon you? If you're the beginning of the circle, what started you? What caused you to act? See, I would say a peacemaker is the one who says, I'm the beginning of the circle. I'm going to be the one who starts the circle. I'm going to be the one who starts the waves, that starts the ripples that go out from it. So I'm not going to allow myself to be affected by anyone. I'm going to be the one that affects the atmosphere, the tone, the fellowship of the church. Imagine how many people in our churches are acted upon and then they act out. Are those peacemakers? When someone acts harshly to you and you respond, you see how you're not the beginning of the circle, you're reacting to this. Imagine a church in which the people who are acting upon you are ignored, set aside, marginalized, and you said, I'm going to go love on that person. I'm going to go say a kind word to that person. I'm going to speak to that person. I'm going to be the beginning of the circle. Now look what kind of church you have. When you have peacemakers, they're the beginning of the circle, not being acted upon by anyone else. And what happens? The inertia of that peacemaking does what? It just continues on and continues on, okay? Until somebody steps in. I've heard this happens in churches, and says something nasty, and says something kakos instead of kalos, all right? And that's where you get that disturbance of peace and that bitter envy and that bitter root, and you got to get your shovel out, and you got to dig it out, and you got to get it out of there, all right? Because it's like cancer. You don't get it out, it's going to mess you up, all right? And you always got to protect the bride. So the fruit of righteousness, that's our goal, right? That's a good thing, right? Fruit of righteousness. All right, so if we want peaches, that's a desired goal, all right? So the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by peacemakers. So the peacemaker sows in peace, trying to achieve what? Righteousness, peace. And you can go with all the fruits of the Spirit there, okay? So if you want the outcome to be the fruit of righteousness, which is sort of an all-inclusive, fruit of the Spirit kind of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control kind of a thing. If you want that, then somebody who's wise and understanding has to plant that in peace. Their motive has to be this peace. Their desire has to be this peace. Their turnings has to be this kalos anastrepho of turning these beautiful things in peace. And at the end of the day, what are you going to get? Fruit of righteousness. So if a peacemaker in peace with the motive of peace plants the seeds that are peaceful, you're going to get this fruit of righteousness. All right? Now, is that an ideal? If James just goes, if you'll do X, Y, and Z, boom, it's all good, right? What do you have to have? You have to have somebody who is wise and understanding, who looks at their own heart and starts to weed out all the bitter envy and the selfish ambition, who recognizes that I'm not going to brag about this, that I'm going to be self-aware enough to know I've got to cut this out of my life. I've got to take this out of my life. I have to remove this from my vocabulary. I have to set aside this relationship. I have to set aside this attitude. I have to set aside this TV show, this type of music, this reading, whatever it is, and you start to glean all those things out of your life until you get to that point where you're going, you know what? I really am getting where I'm wise and understanding. Not because I'm so wise and understanding, it's because I'm establishing the fear of the Lord in my life. And then all of these things are going to just start to flow. And I am going to start to think beautiful, kalos things about people when I see them through the eyes of God himself. And then I'm going to start saying kind and beautiful things because I understand how God spoke about me throughout the whole scriptures. And you start to pick up on these things. And then, again, it's going to be first pure, then it's going to be peace. It's going to look just like God, and it's going to create beautiful peace among people. Then it's going to be all these other things. And before I know it, there's a fruit of righteousness growing out of my life because that's the life that's inside of me. James paints this beautiful picture. And he says, I dare you to do it. I dare you to step up to this. Recognize, be self-aware that all of these things are cutting against it. But here's the picture of what it can be. Here's the picture of what you could be. So all of you that are scattered all over the known world, take your Torah, take your scriptures, take the story of Jesus, and start to incorporate it into your life on an every single second, moment by moment basis. And before you know it, you'll be the peacemaker who's bringing about this beautiful fruit of righteousness because Christ is alive and well in you. And that's what James's big brother taught him about righteousness. Cool? Any questions? I know that was a lot. That was a lot of going around the corner and around a lot of things. But it's a good thing for you to be really self-aware and really look in the mirror and really think through your conversations. I've been doing that a lot lately. Just going, you know what? Because James, we talked about how you got to watch your words. I've been trying to get back at the end of the day and going, okay, did I say anything? Did I not say what I need to say? Did I say anything I should not have said? And it's been good exercise for me to be able to do that. So, all right, let me pray for us and we'll go. Father, I thank you for just James and just the presumptive conversations he had with Jesus and all that he gleaned from that. Father, I pray that we would truly be self-aware